Let's bring in MS Now Justice and intelligence reporter Ken Delaney and retired FBI agent and criminal profiler Mary Ellen O'Toole and former senior FBI official and MS Now national security and intelligence analyst Christopher O'Leary. Chris, I think we got you back up. I know you froze there with Chris Jansing for a moment, but first to you. What in that news conference from the Pima County Sheriff stood out to you?
I think there's two things. Number one, the FBI generally after 24 hours in a kidnapping situation or a presumed kidnapping situation will step in and start partnering with the state and local authorities. And that goes all the way back to the origins of the FBI. The authorities come from both the Mann Act of 1910 and then the Lindbergh Kidnapping Act. So the FBI has the authority and the capabilities to reach across state lines. So the presumption is after 24 hours that the individual could have been moved further than a state line, and the FBI has the national and global reach to be able to conduct this investigation. What they also highlighted was the FBI resources. So the technical capabilities from the CAST, it's called the Cellular Analysis Support Team. They'll really try to be focusing on the cell phone of the victim, but also any other handsets that were active in the area during that time and trying to isolate those things, really trying to get a possible location. The other things that will be coming in are behavioral analysis. The profilers are critical in this. And then the FBI negotiators. The FBI has the finest negotiators in the world, and they're purposely built for exactly this. They'll be advising the family and fielding any calls in any negotiation to try to make sure that we're seizing every opportunity and we're careful about the strategic messaging. And then lastly, I'll say the FBI will surge people with, fugitive task force experience. They know how to go out on manhunts and they know how to locate people. And then the FBI hostage rescue team based in Quantico, Virginia, is certainly on standby for such a high profile event.
So Chris, the FBI was not the lead in that news conference. If the FBI is going to be as heavily involved as you predict they already are after 24 hours because of all the circumstances you just laid out and all the tools that they have at their disposal, wouldn't we hear from them? Why didn't we hear from the FBI today?
Well, right now, the FBI is still in a support role. They're not going to come in and strong arm their way into it unless there's an indication that the victim has actually been moved. It'll be done in collaboration. It'll be done in collaboration with the local sheriff's department. And as the assistant special agent in charge was asking for public help. I mean, at the end of the day, there's a finite amount of resources from the local, state and federal partners, but the public has millions of eyes out there, and somebody saw something. It's the same way that the Brown University shooter was brought to justice. So I'm really asking for the help, bringing the resources that are available, and there's certainly an acknowledgement from the local department that the FBI has resources that they frankly don't. And lastly, I failed to mention before, the FBI evidence response teams and the laboratory are the world's finest. So they're bringing a level of capability that really just doesn't exist at the local level.
Mary, in terms of pictures and video, there was a question about cameras. I just talked about it briefly with Chris Jansing a moment ago. If there was a camera on premise and there's access to that video, why? I guess they must not have an image. Otherwise, why would we not have seen an image by now? Am I wrong to ask that?
No, I think you're very correct to ask that. And I think as they'll have to cull through a lot of different images. And I think what sometimes the public thinks is that the FBI were looking for something very suspicious on a camera, something unusual, and really we're not. We're looking for something very normal, something very regular, because at some point, the offender or the offenders, according to the fact pattern, had to gain access to the house. And it may have been a simple walk down a sidewalk or simply exiting a vehicle. So what they have to do is to look at the entire videos that they have access to. But again, people learn through watching TV. They think they're looking for something unusual. They are not. We're asking people to look for something that's very normal, very regular, and that can be confusing.
The White House has now posted a message about Savannah's mom on X. They are asking for help locating her as well. We'll get that image up to you. Alex Tabbitt, you were in that news conference. What can you tell us?
Well, Katie, we're leaving that news conference with even more questions than answers than we did going into it. But I want to go through some of the highlights here from the Pima County Sheriff, Chris Nanos, and also from the FBI Special Agent on the case, John Edwards. Chris Nanos said that there's still a lot of work to be done. He said that they're tracking thousands of leads. He said that there are going to be fewer press conferences. Press conferences were happening up until today, every day. At this point, he said not to expect another press conference until Thursday. And if there is a press conference between now and Thursday, that would mean that something is breaking. So if we do hear of a press conference later today or on Wednesday, that could mean that there's been a significant development in this case. And he also acknowledged the fact that he's not used to the media hanging on his every word. We did hear Chris Nanos, the sheriff here, say that she was taken from her bed in an interview yesterday evening and then seeming to walk that back with time. Now, he says he does not want to narrow the timeline of when the actual moment that Nancy Guthrie was taken from her home. He wants to keep it from 9:45 p.m., which is the last time a member of the Guthrie family saw her at the home, to 11 a.m. when there was a family member who checked in on her after members of her faith community didn't see her come to church. And he also acknowledged, Chris Nanos also acknowledged, that the surveillance footage from the scene, the Ring camera footage from the scene, he still doesn't have it. In a previous interview, he talked about how many of those pieces of video, that footage remains in the cloud, that big tech companies like Apple and Google have reached out to him to help cooperate, but he still does not have that video and he can't share that video. Another example of a question that he couldn't answer is, do we have any identifiable markers of what Nancy Guthrie was wearing in that moment, whether it's clothes, whether it's a car that she could have potentially been taken into? He was not able to answer that question. So, Katie, we're leaving this press conference with a whole lot of questions and still not a lot of answers.
So Mary, on that note, on the cloud and the access to the video, why is it difficult to get cooperation from these tech companies in this moment when the family is there and is asking for help, when the person is missing, when the phone of the person was left behind? Why would it still in this case be hard to get that information?
I'm not sure that it would be hard. I don't know what kind of legal process that they're requesting, but I just know from my own experience as an FBI agent that when you have a major case like this, companies want to bend over backwards to be able to help you. So I was a little bit confused by that statement. I don't know what would be some of the hurdles that they're facing other than making sure that the legal process is in place to be able to turn any documentation over.
Chris, delicate question. Do you think that this local law enforcement there in Tucson, do they have what they need to pursue this case? Is this something that they're equipped for?
Certainly. I mean, they're U.S. law enforcement organization in a major city. They're professionals, but bringing in partners who can assist is certainly the way to do this, especially on something this national scale. I will say one thing, having worked hostage rescue and recovery in my career, everybody's concerned about, her health. Generally speaking, if this was a deliberate kidnapping or abduction, unfortunately, as callous as it sounds, she is currency to them. So keeping her healthy and alive and well is really in their interest. So that is something I always shared with families, that they took her for a purpose if she was deliberately taken, and they would likely keep her healthy so they can turn her over for whatever ransom that they're demanding. So that is something that everybody should consider, understanding she's of advanced years and she has some health problems. If this was something that was a targeted kidnapping, those things were probably considered, and hopefully she's still in good health. Having said that, really making sure that the FBI is providing the family with the support that they need through the victim specialists and truly the negotiators doing this at a professional level to make sure that nothing's missed because the FBI has a dedicated unit based out of Quantico that does this all day, every day around the world.